I'm a brand new beekeeper, so I'm getting all my bee boxes ready. Um, is painting, waiting the time 2 to 3 weeks? Is that okay then to put new bees in after you paint a box?
It's a good question. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. So it's sometimes we would desperately paint, and then maybe even 2 days later we put the bees in. But it's good to give it a lot of you air it out and let it dry. It's a lot better. Otherwise, you can wax dip it as well, which is quicker and easier, and that gives a more natural appearance.
And a very key point, don't paint the inside of the box.
Right. I've also saw videos where people scorch the inside of the box. Has anybody tried that, or does that seem to be work or not work or make no difference?
I don't think it makes much difference. The latest one, as we heard from Marla Spivak on the conference, is to create little grooves or roughen up the inside so that they distribute more propolis, and that seems to be good at fighting a lot of the maybe potential infections that the bees might have.
Okay, thank you.
But you don't need to paint the inside. One little trick, where the frames rest, I've noticed that if I paint on where the frames rest, it delays the propolis buildup at that location, so you can remove the frames easier. So it's one little part of the inside that I do paint is on. You can see where the frames make contact with the hive. So it's a little trick if you want to try that.
Okay,
It doesn't
thank
last
you.
forever though. They eventually propolize it up.
Right. Thanks.
Any other questions? Must be at least one.
Hey, this is Howard. I have a question.
Okay, Howard, go ahead.
All right, so at the conference, Tom Seeley says screen bottom board doesn't really help much with mites. Dewey Karen says upper entrance during the winter might not be such a good idea. I asked Michael Palmer about the mountain camp method where I put sugar on the top. I said, when's the best time to put that on? And he said, when hell freezes over. So where do we stand?
Those are all very contentious issues. I don't think it really makes much difference. I mean, beekeeping all relates to, healthy bees. Whether you've got a screen bottom board or a non-screen bottom board, the bees will survive. They will make a plan. If you have sugar at the top or don't have sugar at the top, or you have candy board or no candy board, as long as they've got enough food, preferably honey, they will survive. And the top entrances as well. I did some experiments this last winter. I blocked off the top entrance. I gave screen bottom boards and non-screen bottom boards. They all survived. So I don't think there's much of a difference. So healthy bees, and they've got enough food, they will survive the winter.
I agree with you. Yep.
I've moved away from screen bottom boards probably 7 or 8 years ago, and I only have solid bottom boards now. I just prefer them and think it's less drafty, and I don't have to change things here and there. So as far as the upper entrances go, I use especially in the winter, I use the moisture boards with a small upper entrance on the front and on the back, and notice that they were both. It's weird because like some colonies will close them off with propolis, others will open them up, and then others use the front and the back entrance when it's really when it's warm enough and the bees want to get in and out fast enough because the openings are so small. So as part of the moisture board, I have those in there, and they work pretty well. So that's where I've settled. As far as winter feeding goes, I've said this before, but I feed heavily in the fall and really have not opened my hives up for any reason at all until maybe 3 weeks ago when it was started to get warm enough to, you could always go around and tip up half the hive and see how much they weigh. Since Mike Palmer's talk, I went and bought, it's upstairs, I can grab it and show it to you, but I bought one of these industrial scales that go up to 250 pounds. It was $99 on Amazon, and I can't wait to try it out. So I'm gonna do a little bit more analytical rather than just lift up the hive and know it's darn heavy.
He says he weighs all his hives in one day by himself.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy. I mean, you could even go cheaper than that and buy a cheap fishing scale with a hook, and you lift the one side, you lift the other side, and combine the weights, and that's it. You can go through a bee yard in 10 minutes. So I've got records of all the hives, all my hives at the start of the season, and then as they start getting a little bit low, I'll open them up and put more frames of honey inside. So it's a good way, you can leave the ones that are heavy and add honey to ones that are light. And if I last looked at that scale, it was 488. So Frank, I've beaten you there with a little fishing scale.
Here it is. I don't know if you can see it. It's sort of industrial. It's rugged. It's got a handle and a digital display on the front, and it seems to be sturdy enough to be able to like carry it around. It's not real heavy, but it's.
So you've got to lift the whole hive and put it onto that.
Well, you lift half the hive.
Oh, okay.
Half the back half. Whatever's easy.
Yeah, the little cheap fishing scale has a little marker that goes up, so you don't have to look at it while you're lifting it, and you just look at it once it's come down. It shows you the maximum it went to.
Same with this. You just press a button and.
Frank, I beat you. Mine's 488.
And it holds the level, like you can just look at it and see what the weight was after you take it away, and it goes up to 250 pounds.
Light is light and heavy is heavy.
I can see you have the.
But it's always good to monitor the hives to see what's going on, that they don't need some type of assistance. Any other questions?
No.
Have many people been seeing small hive beetles in their hives? I have a couple of yards where I'm finding overwintered hive beetles. They're very much under control, but I've seen them more this spring than I've ever seen them before. And I plan to attack them.
Yeah, Frank, this is Jack McMichael. I've seen small hive beetles in many of my hives already.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're gonna be moving around.
Yeah, what might happen is you might see them now, but just take notice of them as the hives get bigger and bigger. You might find that you'll see less and less of them.
Sure.
So we must all monitor it, because the guys down south have tremendous problems with the small hive beetles. So we hope it doesn't get bad in our area. And sometimes we hope for very cold winters to knock them down a bit.
Well, Frank, I'm only a couple of miles from you, and I found small hive beetles in 2 out of 6 of my hives.
At which one of my yards?
What's that?
Which yard? Where are you close to?
I'm on, off of 113 and Whitford Hills Road.
113 in Whitford Hills Road. Okay. Yeah, I have a yard.
My place. You probably forgot.
I think it was Deb Delaney who was saying don't squish the hive beetles because it can spread diseases. I had not heard that before.
I'll kill them as soon as I see them.
I didn't know that, Howard. I didn't hear her say that.
Yeah,
But it does give us so much pleasure, though.
It does. It's very gratifying.
I was thinking you could take something like a turkey baster and maybe suck them up.
That's a good idea. I'll try that.
And then squirt it into a little thing of alcohol or something.
Because they're very hard to pick up and then they fly away.
They're so fast.
Yeah. Try that.
Okay, we've got a question on the chat from Kim. I left my bees plenty of honey in the deeps. So do I worry about being honey bound? There's activity in the hive, but there's still tons of honey left. How much do you need? And they can get honey bound, but generally they're using that honey. So you need an inspection. You must make sure that there's room for the queen to lay. Some of the Carniolan varieties go very small in the cluster. They don't eat that much. And now they're expanding rapidly and they need the space. So you've got to do an inspection to see, to what extent. It's difficult to tell us now, you exactly need 7 3/4 frames of honey and you need 3 frames of open. No, you might have you might have a double deep, you might have a super on there. We don't know the configuration. So, but generally, you might be able to get, on average, the queen has moved up and she's laying in the upper brood chamber. You can then reverse the brood chamber so the queen works up into relatively empty comb. But it might not be that. So you've got to do an inspection and just have a look.
What would you do with the extra honey if there is extra honey, especially if the hive has been treated?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to. I keep it for nukes. So when you're making nukes later on, you can give them 1 or 2 full frames of nice honey.
You could also think about supering early and give those bees a chance to move the honey up. They're on warmer days or days warm enough where they're able to break the cluster, which is often now, especially if you have honey to keep them warm, you could just let them move the honey up.
Depending on what you treat it with.
Anybody else have any questions? Hive has been treated, so I assume freeze it and put in frames without drawn comb. You should say, what was it treated with? Was it treated with Amitraz? I mean, then I agree with Howard Apivar, yeah. So
yeah, that's Amitraz, yeah. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, is it okay? When would you start swarm prevention? And is it okay to reverse the bodies? How to feed honey back to bees that's not capped? Yeah, so when would you do a reversal? It all depends how big the hives are. When does swarm prevention start? We would guess that the drone production would have started on the warmer weather 5 or 6 days ago. So we would anticipate that they've already started the drones. So we would anticipate the first swarm is 2 weeks after the drones have emerged. The drone takes 24 days. So we probably have about 19 days before the drones will emerge, and then probably in about 19 days on the strongest colonies, we can start swarm prevention. That's at a guess. We still need to look at the hives, and the guys further south might be earlier, and if you way up north, a bit colder, might be a little bit later. And every hive is different as well.
I heard recently on the podcast that after a drone emerges, it takes 2 weeks for them to be sexually mature. Is that accurate? I haven't heard that before.
2 to 3 weeks, yeah. That was Keith Delaplane, Dr. Keith Delaplane, on his talk with where he did drone tracking.
Keith, can you hear me?
Yeah.
A question for you. Maybe I could just put this out to the group. Has anybody noticed that maybe your hives are a little bit behind from what they were last year?
Yeah, because we had a warm winter last year.
Yeah.
Warm February, so they're a little bit behind. So it seems more average this year.
Yeah, and going in a lot of mine last week, I noticed I didn't see any drones. I saw some capped drones in some of the bigger hives, but not a whole lot. Not yet. Is anybody noticing the same thing?
Yeah, Tom, it's I've seen one drone, and I think he was a holdover from last year.
Oh, okay.
But when I give a chat about what I'm doing with my hive, I have a section on accumulated degree days, and accumulated degree days keeps track of temperature changes as the season progresses. And I'll show you how it's definitely correlated with when the queens lay eggs.
Okay. Yeah, because we've had a cold week. So it may slow things down, maybe even a little bit more.
Well, it started slow.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking at temperatures next week, and it looks like we're going to get some days that are about 64, 65 degrees, and maybe some nights that are 40, 45 degrees, which is better, you know.
So Tom, get your bee suit on. We can see it in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right there.
You should have it on tonight, Tom.
Yeah.
You can sleep in it, Tom.
Oh, hey George, by the way, I saw your magazine with your picture on it.
Yes, thank
Oh,
you.
how that's really nice. It's really nice. I
Cool.
can hardly wait to read it. Yeah, Barb gave it to me.
There's a question about the new kits, and we'll cover that tonight, but the new kits are going to be available on Saturday at 3 different locations. So stay tuned and we'll cover that during the meeting.
When do we think about reversing the supers? When you're putting supers on, now the traditional approach was putting supers on when the dandelions are out. So that's a rough indication of when you can put the supers on.
I haven't seen any dandelions blooming yet. Even a little further south where I am. So I don't know. Maybe this rain that we're going to have will bring some up.
I've seen 3 dandelions.
Yeah.
Okay, put the supers on.
So when drones are flying, does that mean that they're mature?
No, you've got to wait for them to be 2 or 3 weeks old. So the best one is you see with the drones emerging.
Yeah.
And what you do is, if you're not sure on their, what their age is, you can open up the capped drone brood. That'll give you an indication. They go through different phases, purple eye phase, and then you can see them formed into the fully drone. And once they start hatching in mass, then you've got another 2-3 weeks before the first swarm's anticipated on your strongest hives, the best hives. So it's a very good indication to know when your apiary site is at the stage of wanting to swarm. So you can do the swarm prevention before it occurs, or your splits, or you're not waiting to catch the swarm and then do remedial work.
Well, I got to find out if those Russian scions work somehow.
Hey, Keith, I have a question for you. It's Lainey. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been putting 7 frames in my 8 frame honey super just to build up more honey in each frame.
Yeah.
Do I have to put 7 frames in the hive boxes then so they can move vertically easily?
Sorry, do you have to put what in your hive bodies there?
7 frames in the hive bodies so that they can move up and down easily, or can I keep the hive bodies at 8 frames and the honey supers at 7 frames?
Yeah. Just keep it. I do on my 10 frame equipment. I have 10 frames in my brood boxes, and in my honey supers, I have 8 frames, 8 mediums in my honey supers.
Okay, great.
So,
Thanks.
and I don't try and match them up with with the frames down below, and
Okay.
they make enough honey for me. I get too much, so but don't worry about that at all. So
Thanks.
it's fine, and you can even go. Some of my hives I put 7. Once they've drawn them out and got fatter, I've even put 7 frames in a 10 frame honey super.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to be the fat frames, and it's nice when you have them drawn way out because it's so easy to uncap, and it's there are fewer frames to put in your extractor, and it works really well.
Right. Thank you.
Who asked about Russian scions?
That's Howard.
That was me.
Oh, I'm not going to tell you because that's a trade secret. No, if you're going to be at the beach at Friday, I'll take a couple pictures and show you how I made them.
Yeah, okay. I made some last year, but put it up too late.
I like them. I use them. I probably have, I don't know, half dozen, 8, something like that.
Okay.
scattered around, and I've caught swarms on every one. That's not to say though they don't use fence posts and other things, but they're very attracted to this. They I didn't even know they were swarming sometimes until I just saw the swarm on the scion. So I like them. That's all I
Okay.
can say.
Yeah, and we've heard a lot. What Frank says in the one is correct. I mean, I don't treat now all the way through till July. Normally about July the 15th is my first treatment of the year.
Me too.
So it's and it works. I mean, you can see the Varroa numbers. The bees aren't robbing each other at this time of the year. Well, not much, but they might start that later in the season. And yeah, so you don't get this transmission of the Varroa at the moment, and the numbers are pretty low. If I do the oxalic acid dribble, so it knocks the numbers down substantially, and it takes the bee numbers expand. Randy Olive's got a nice graph with this, and yeah, so in general, if you've treated well the year before, you don't have to treat until around about July. When the bee numbers start going down, the Varroa numbers are still going up, and you get an imbalance. Then the important thing is treat them. Everyone talks about Varroa treatments. It is probably one of the most important things in beekeeping. Well, I think it is. Some people might not, but to make your bees survive, just treat them and make sure they have enough feed. Any other questions? There must be at least some questions.
They're the two biggest things anybody can do is feed and treat. They're number one and number two always.
And there's a big debate of which one's better than the other one. So then towards winter, and we would almost say that feed is better than Varroa treatment, although it's just a slight difference. Your bees could survive if you haven't treated them, but if they haven't got enough food, they will definitely die. But please do both of them. So it's. And the other one, I have a lot of people asking me, they might have had a few hives die, and they're asking, they do the same treatments that I do. I mean, they come to me and say, what are you treating? And they will do exactly the same, but they have more hives dying. And then we go through every little piece, every step. And the one difference that I'm finding of people who do lose a couple of hives over winter is the fact that I do drone culling throughout the season. So I take the drones out, I freeze the green frames, and I cull them. And that's the difference I see between some of the beekeepers who copy exactly the treatments and the feeding regime that I do. They don't do the drone culling. So I think that makes a difference, and it just keeps the bees healthier by removing a lot of the Varroa who tend to attack the drone brood.
Absolutely, Keith. I follow your example, and I'm very impressed with what I've gotten for getting rid of mites. I swapped them out 6 times each last year. Loved it.
Yeah. It's really important just to keep them healthy, and it's we don't like putting chemicals in the hives, but the drone brood is a way of slowly getting rid of some of them, so you don't get this mass buildup. Do you harvest honey after mite treatments? It depends on the mite treatment that you do. The mite treatment, if you use honey safe ones, which are the Miteway quick strips, the Pro, Formic Pro, and now the oxalic acid, you're allowed to do those treatments with honey on. But if you use Amatraz, which is the Apivar, and some of the other ones, they're not honey safe. So just be careful which one that you use. And we don't want to unnecessarily put chemicals in the hive. I don't think any of us want to do it, but if it's very effective towards a Varroa, then we'll do it. But yeah, with the honey safe ones, yes, and honey if it's not safe, then we make sure the honey's removed. Okay, shall we have a yeah, okay, so we got a question here, Formic Pro, that's from Frank, and Any other questions? Everyone's confident about their bees. They're all going to do well. We're going to have a good black locust season this year. This year, Paul, you're going to have black locust honey this year. So it looks very good. If you have good weather around about May, remember they will start flowering. If the weather goes according to plan, around about the 10th to the 20th of May, the black locust will flower. And if you've got the trees in the area, you'll get some absolutely wonderful honey. And I've got a feeling that it's going to be a good black locust season.
That's what every farmer says at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Spring, just about things are.
But you mark my words, we're going to have a good black locust season. So it's
Awesome. 2 more messages. I can't see them. Can anyone see them? Because then we're going to get started. The regular.
Do you have a
yeah, okay, there's a question quickly. Do you have drone frames in now? And the answer is yes, we do have drone frames in now. So do you let them hatch? But if you let them emerge, then you probably propagating the varroa mites as well. But it's your debate. We have a mating yard that we do fly drones on, so you can bring them to the mating yard. Okay, I think, George, that's everything.
Yeah, thanks, Frank, and thanks, Keith, for always giving us good advice on the Bee Gurus. So anyone new tonight? Welcome to the March 2021 meeting. That's a picture of Tom, and who's our beginner lead, and Russ in the background there next to the door, who's the co-lead of the beginners group. So our beginners course has started. It's the first Tuesday of the month. So there's still time to join in if you're a beginner and would like to join in the beginners group. And Tom and Russ do a wonderful job with that group. Anyone new, if you're new, type in the chat that you're new and introduce yourself. We had 75 new members so far, so about a new member a day, and we have 600 primary and associate members who are really here to help. And we gather in a lot of virtual places right now. I mean, hopefully by the end of the year we'll be gathering in person, but we gather once a month on usually the second Thursday, but it was moved this month. So the second Thursday is usually the club meetings, and the Fridays are Bee Chat. And then if you go to the website and look at the event calendar, you'll see all the events that are happening. So it's a great place to get familiar with the website. And really, a lot of what we do is just to promote sustainable beekeeping. And when I think of sustainable beekeeping, it's really becoming familiar with the best management practices that Frank and Keith were already talking about that really maximize bee health. So surely things like varroa management and small hive beetle management and feeding and is all really talking about having healthy bees. And if you're a beekeeper, if you're not working to have healthy bees, you probably either should get out of the hobby, or the bees will get you out of the hobby quick because they won't survive. So I got a feeling like this winter's been a little bit of a harder winter on the colonies. I'm sure there's some people whose survival rate is very good, but I've heard more loss, I think, this year than the last 2 years, which sort of makes sense a little bit because the last 2 winters have been really cold. So some of the smaller colonies made it through the winter, while this year I think some of the smaller colonies weren't able to make it through. And it's really to have fun, it's to enjoy your hobby and minimize your expenses. And buy only bees once. I think the CCBA at least recently is a fantastic example of sustainable beekeeping. All the CCBA hives out at the apiary survived for a second year in a row. So we've had 0 hive losses in the last 2 years in our apiary site, and that credit goes to Tony largely, and really. He does a wonderful job with taking care of the hives out there. I mentioned the apiary and mating yard. I realized since I've been president, I really haven't told anybody where it is, and that's just been an oversight on my part. It's 651 Brandywine Drive, and it's Westchester. It's across from the Embryville Athletic Fields on Route 162. and the apiary is open, all year round, all the time for anybody to come and take a look at, the what's going on in there, take a walk around there. It's really a beautiful site, and kind of what it looks like right now is, I think, more on the left. The hives are still wrapped, and I think there's 15 hives, including one top bar hive out there right now. So if you're going to go into the hives for any reason, you probably should let Tony know, if you're going to be messing with the hives before you go out there, just so we can keep track of what's going on. And he's sort of particular about knowing what's going on. So again, if you've never been out there and it's a nice day, take a drive and walk around. We're going to be doing a lot more out at that apiary because it is our mating yard too. So we're going to get into that a little bit later tonight, but we hope to see a lot more people out at our apiary. We're very fortunate to be one of the few clubs in the area who has a dedicated apiary and mating yard. So anyway, it's been there. How long has that been there, Keith? About 6 or 7 years now?
2015, I think.
2015? Wow. 6 years. So that makes sense. About 6 years now. The members, we got together, put up the fence, put up the shed. It's a great little place. March meeting. That's my cat. I don't know why I put the cat up there. I spent a lot of time in the barn this winter, and those of you who know Daphne, she's really friendly, and she'll come and say hi to you. So that's Daphne, the barn cat. She's been building hives with me all winter. So a little bit of, I'm conference burnt out. So if I seem a little off track tonight, excuse me. I may wander a little bit. I'll try to stay focused. We're gonna get our officer reports, then we'll move into talking about our Howard and the swarm list and the swarm program. I'm gonna talk a little bit about a new program called the Passport Program. Darrell's gonna mention that. Then we'll talk about our annual census and record keeping by Ray. Hear from Ed and Allie about the new committee. Paul's going to tell us what he's been doing and what he's going to be doing with his hives this month. A little bit from Jesse on what's blooming. And then we have 6 breakout sessions tonight: advanced, beginners, dead out, disease, electronic hive monitoring, and record keeping, website help, and nukes. So again, maybe a little lighter agenda than normal, but we're all sort of still coming down off the conference. So these are the officers for 2021. Here to sort of make the day-to-day sort of CCBA run well and have fun. We're all very available. So if anybody has something that they think that you want to share with any of the officers, please feel free to get in touch with us or myself. We do have a new co-lead, actually. So these are the committees and leads and co-leads of our 14 committees. We have the advanced committee led by Keith, apiary led by Tony, beginners led by Tom, citizen science led by Ray, the conference led by Janie, community engagement led by Janie, education co-led by Darrell and Tracy and Lauren, entertainment led by Tracy, grants led by Paul, horticulture Jesse, innovation Tim, mentoring Walt, nukes Ed, queen breeding myself or Steve, and woodworking Ernest. So if you're not a current member of a committee, you can go to the CCBA homepage and sort of click on the committee button and consider joining a committee. All the committees are led by great beekeepers and great people, and most of them have things sort of that they're working on this year. So if you'd like to sort of lend a hand and not sure where to begin, a committee may be a good way to do it. Who's the green person? The Chris Huffman, who was one of Tony and I's apprentices last year, is the co-lead of the entertainment committee. So I know Tracy and Chris are already have some ideas. So hopefully when everyone gets vaccinated and we all get back together in person, I know they're working on some ideas for later on in the fall. So two terrific, I think relatively newer beekeepers to the club, but they're leading up the entertainment committee this year. So again, people, we'll get to it in a bit, but people were, obviously people are out there are impressed by what the CCBA does. And I tell people it's all about the work of the committees. It's all about having really strong committee leads and co-leads doing the work. So anyway, join a committee if you want. Officer reports. Kathy, our secretary, you on tonight, Kathy?
Hey,
Yeah, I'm
George,
here.
why don't
Yeah.
we do new members first, or new
Oh.
first timers?
Are there first, you want to go over them, Mark?
I don't know who they are, but you asked the question and then immediately jumped. So I don't know if
I'm
they're.
having trouble with navigating my screen tonight, honestly. So I'm having trouble seeing the chat. If anyone's put in that they're a new member or wants to.
Okay, so I see Lauren and John are new.
Okay. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. Let's see. I think that according to the list, they're the only people that self-identified as new members. If
Where are you
there are
guys from?
I guess Lauren's shy. We're in East Fallowfield.
Awesome. I think I know
Yeah,
where that-
we have zero experience. We're just enjoying soaking up all the information you guys are sharing.
Do you have bees yet?
No.
No,
Not
we're
yet?
starting the apprenticeship program this spring.
Well, that's a smart way to do it. Awesome. Have you been paired with a teacher?
Not yet.
We're
Walt,
working on it.
yeah, Walt's still gathering
Yeah,
all the
Walt has
cogs.
been helpful.
Oh, cool. Walt's usually on tonight. Walt, get on it, please. No, I'm just kidding, Walt.
I think
He's waiting for us to
Yeah,
respond.
yeah.
Got it, George.
Walt, what's up, man? No, Walt's great. No, Walt will definitely get you hooked up,
He's been very helpful.
Yeah, Walt's terrific. So, and it's a very smart way to get started beekeeping is through the apprentice program and really take the first year to, sort of learn what it's all about and,
Yeah, we're just trying to figure things out.
I
right
like your
now.
comment of only buying bees once. I definitely don't want to kill a hive.
Well, that's it's something to aspire to, but even good beekeepers lose hives every once in a while. So it's okay if you have, as long as you've done your best to do your mite levels and your mite treatments and your feeding and and manage your hives appropriately. You can't control everything for sure.
Lauren doesn't know if
try.
it's a curse or a blessing that I'm very detail oriented. So.
No, it takes all types. There are all kinds of types of beekeepers out there. We definitely do have some people that love their records. And very obsessive and detailed, and some people are less so. So it all works. So
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll get Walt to help you quickly.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Mark? I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm having trouble with my chat box today. I think my
Eric Bovard is new.
Awesome. Where are you from, Eric?
Hey, I live in Pecopson Township, about outside of Westchester, sort of between Westchester and Kennett.
Nice area.
Yeah.
Nice, good place to keep bees for sure, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any yet. I have helped out with some hives in the past. So it's not too late to sign up for the mentorship program, is it? Actually, that's on my to-do list.
Yeah, you could either sign up for the beginners program, which is a class-based program that meets once a month, or you could sign up for the apprentice program, which pairs you up with a teacher and you work individually with that teacher twice a month. So it's, it just depends what your comfort level is on how you want to learn. But I strongly recommend one or the other if you're a new beekeeper, because not that I have any data to prove it, but I do think, participating in one of those early on is going to, again, like you to, it'll probably increase your chance of being a successful beekeeper for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely one of the things I want to do this year.
Because you want to learn good habits early on. I have bad habits that I still can't unlearn, but not many. I taught them myself, which is usually the way we learn bad habits.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Yeah. So I was thinking about I think the mentorship program might work out better for me.
His name is Walt.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, look at Walt, send Walt to chat, and he'll get you hooked up with somebody for sure.
Absolutely.
Great, nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks.
We good, Mark? Anybody
Looks
else?
good to me. I think that's good.
You want to give your vice president's report, or you want to let Kathy go first?
I'll let Kathy go first. I don't have a report this month.
You're alive.
I'm alive.
Anything, Kathy, from our secretary?
Nope, I don't have anything exciting.
Nothing
Sorry.
exciting?
No.
Awesome. Welcome, Merle. Jack, are you on, Jack?
I am.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm here. We're all tired.
Yeah, I think we're all between the conference and the daylight savings time. I think we're all dragging a little bit right now.
Jack's our treasurer, so he signs the checks and reimburses you and gives us some update on how we're doing financially. So, and membership is
Right.
Jack too.
So,
George, for FYI, I'm going to check off in a few minutes.
Are you okay?
No. Check the chat.
Okay. I'll chat with you in a bit. See you, Merle.
Okay.
okay. So give me 1 second here. I just lost it. Interestingly enough, partially because of the success of the conference and the publication of the number of speakers that we had at the conference, we have had several new members join within the last few days. And we now have members, obviously we're Chester County Beekeepers Club, but we have members outside Chester County and in fact outside Pennsylvania. We have had members from Delaware and Maryland and one or two from New Jersey for quite some time. But just within the last couple of weeks, we have had members join our club who entered as their home address when they joined the club, Colorado, Washington, D.C., New York, Oklahoma, Wisconsin. So our universe is expanding from a membership standpoint. From a financial perspective, I have preliminary results with respect to the conference. We took in between registration fees for attendees, paid advertisements in the conference program that was published and put out on the website, and the 3 vendors who paid for time slots at one of the breakout sessions. We took in just a little bit shy of $12,000 for the conference. And since this year was a virtual conference and we didn't have some of the largest expenses we normally have with the conference, like paying the cost of renting the venue and feeding everybody a hot lunch, our expenses were pretty low this year. There may still be a few hanging out there that bills haven't come in for, but I'm projecting that we're going to put about $8,000 to the bottom line as a result of the conference, which puts it as right up there with one of the best in terms of bottom line numbers in the last 6 years. That's all I have for tonight.
Thanks, Jack. If anybody has any comments or any questions for Jack, you can put them in the chat box. Does anyone have any questions for Jack currently? No? Well, if you do, you can send Jack a chat. I think he's going to be on for most of the conference tonight. So
I will be on for most of the night. Yeah.
Conference meeting, whatever we're doing tonight. Paul, I put the grant program up, or anything else you want to talk about right now before we?
Just a couple of clarifications. If you go to the website and look at the document about the grants, we've just made a couple of changes. One is we initially said applicants must not be CCBA members or close relatives. That still stands, but we put the reason in. It's that our 501c3 status prohibits a party realizing gain through their membership. So that's why you can't be a CCBA member and apply for a grant. The other thing we loosened up a little bit was we said that if you had a direct affiliation a CCBA member had a direct affiliation with an organization, they couldn't apply. Well, we decided that was too restrictive. So now we're just saying if a CCBA member is a paid employee, officer, or a board member of an organization that is applying for a grant, the nature of that relationship must be disclosed. Again, it's just to be transparent, avoid the perception of nepotism or favoritism. And lastly, we said initially that you must reside around the CCB area. And now it's just, we prefer that applicants reside around the CCB area. And that's all about the modifications to the rules.
Thanks, Paul. Just so people know, as it's in our, I don't know if it's in our, somewhere written in the Constitution or in some formal that you know, every year at the end of the year, we take 15% of our operating funds and allocate them to external grants. So this year, as of 12/31/2020, we had a little bit of above $40,000 in our operating fund. So 15% of that was $6,000. So we have $6,000 available for external grants. The individual grant maximum is $1,500, and the link to a, you know, it's on the homepage to get more information and to apply. I know we've had some applications so far this year, Paul.
Yes, 2.
So we've had 2. Hopefully, we'll get a few more. There's no guarantee that any of the things that are submitted will be funded. It's a competitive process, and they will be reviewed. And if they don't, if the grant review committee decides that they're not aligned well enough with the mission, or they don't, what was submitted doesn't have a good enough merit to get funded, we won't fund anything, and then that money would obviously be available for the following year. I mean, that's not our goal. Our goal is to put 15% of our operating funds out there to the external, to the public to get grants. So anyway, I encourage everybody to sort of think about if they have again, you can't. It would be best if you're working with somebody to apply or to spread this around to other people that you know who would be interested in applying. Any questions for Paul before we move on about our grant program? I know this has been up on the website for a while, and I think we mentioned it back in January or February. So I hope this is not new news information to everybody, but anyway, anything? No? Okay. And again, Paul, there is a grant committee led by Paul, has none of the board members on it. It's all no board members, again, to make sure that we don't have any favoritism or nepotism on how we award our money. So anyway, this is very exciting. I don't sound excited because I'm tired, but this is so exciting to think that the CCBA is going to be giving out $6,000 this year to external grants. Again, it's not many B clubs could go ahead and do that, and I'm fortunate that we're in a position to do that, and partly because we run successful conferences and successful events and other programming that generates some revenue to be able to do this. So that's it. Conference, we've for those of you who were there, it was a huge success. You know, it was beyond anything I could have thought of how it was going to go. It was awesome. You know, the talks were awesome. The tech support was awesome. The participants were awesome. It was just a totally awesome day. And surely that's also a team effort. You know, the conference committee led by Janie, co-led by Deb and Mike Haberland, board of director sponsors Keith, with Sharon on the brochure, Paul and Justin on ads and door prizes, conference committee members helping out. However many speakers, 15 or 16 speakers, all the CCBA members who acted as moderators, and the 300 participants that joined us. It really, if you were involved at all with it, it was impressive. Mark is just finishing up rendering and editing the 22 hours worth of video of the conference. They will be coming out soon to the participants. We did have a sort of debriefing meeting tonight by the conference committee, and the conference committee has decided that we are going to make the videos available for members of the CCBA who did not attend the conference for $30. So if you did not attend the conference and would like access to these videos, we're gonna be putting them up on the storefront as a ticket to buy to get access to these videos, and then you'll have the same access as if you were at the conference. We decided that we were going to charge the same price as the people who went to the conference. I think I think we told once we put the video links out there, I think they're only going to be active for 2 weeks to watch the videos, and that was part of the arrangement that we made with the speakers to videotape them. So if you did not attend the conference or did not register for the conference and you're interested in getting the links to the 22 hours worth of videos, they will be, I'll send out an email blast at some point tomorrow with how to go about accessing them. I'm not trying to, and I said to the conference committee, go ahead.
Hold on, time out. Yes. He's not going to send it out necessarily tomorrow, but certainly by the end of the week.
Right.
By the end of the week, I mean by Monday.
Not the videos, but the opportunity to say, yeah, I want the videos.
Okay.
I would like to have access to the videos.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? Obviously, we don't need the money. I think the education was absolutely phenomenal. So I really want to make sure that all the CCABA members have the opportunity to access these videos of the speakers' presentations, because they were really, they were wonderful. Anyway, that's that. Yes, I hear you, Mark. This is really just to sort of give you some visual of how we sent out a conference evaluation at the end of the conference. Obviously, you can see the ratings of the conference rating and the relevance to people's beekeeping practice. So it was definitely well received by the 300 people that attended the conference. This is new. We are going to be doing more live streaming of all kinds of stuff. So we're surely living in a different world currently, and I think the post-pandemic world will be different than the pre-pandemic world. So our board of directors has recently approved the purchase of $5,000 of equipment necessary to produce quality live stream education. This is a huge undertaking for the club. So we do have people in the club who have some expertise in this area. Rick Davis, a club member, is as a professional videographer, and he's going to be helping us with the video equipment. Chris is a tech guru and is going to be helping us with the software and computing. You're going to see we've also recently called for people interested in learning the camera and computer stuff. So when we obviously have an event and we want to live stream it, that we have a group of people that are available to help assist that. I think even when we return to in person, the goal would be to always be have the ability to live stream everything that we do in person. Why is that? I think because we've seen how successful it's been in this year. Our club is now over 600 members. I think the access to the education, the access to the skill development, and the access to the fund should be had by all. A lot of our members are getting up there in age, and I don't, if people are having trouble with mobility or having problems with driving, or I want them to get access to the information. There's been so many beekeepers this year in the club who have told me that they log on to the virtual meetings and the bee chats and the seminars because it's so easy to do, and they're so grateful that the technology's there. So I really this is going to come out in small bits and pieces, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what the club does with our live streaming. Yes, you can live stream for a lot cheaper than $5,000, for sure. I mean, you can live stream with your iPhone, but just like what we did with the conference, that's not the intent here. The intent here is really to, obviously we're not videographers and professionals, but it's definitely to put out a product that is that people are going to be proud of, and really people are going to say, hey, look at that, that's pretty impressive what the CCBA is doing. So again, you'll see it in bits and pieces over the next month or two, and then hopefully as we learn and as we get better at doing this stuff, you'll see more of it coming out later in the year. And like I said, I think this is going to stay even once the pandemic is over. Howard, you want to talk about the swarm list for a little bit?
Sure. We maintain a list on our website of those members willing and able to retrieve swarms from the nervous general public. This year, we're making a few minor changes to the list and are asking interested, experienced members to re-sign up to be on the list. Next slide, please. There you go. Very good. I've divided our area into north, south, east, west, and central Chester County, plus Delaware County and the main line. Under each area will be listed the members willing to catch swarms in that area. All the public will see is your name, phone number, and optionally your email address. Since time is critical, phone is best. Next slide. We'll list on this new website the information we need from the public when they find a swarm. Let me know if you think of something else to add to this list. We've all had experience where they call up and we find out it's a yellow jacket nest or wasp nest or something along those lines. We're trying to avoid that. Next slide. So the next step is for us to post a survey, which I'm going to need help with, on the website for you to indicate your interest and provide the information we need. I'll use a random number generator to determine the order on the list. I'd like to have the list up by mid-April. The current list will be up until it's been replaced by this new site. If you want to learn how to capture a swarm, I suggest calling a keeper from the current list and ask that they let you know when they get a call so you can go along. Each call is an adventure, and just like a snowflake, no two are alike. And of course, we do have to worry about COVID and make sure people who call us and are nervously standing nearby have a mask and that you have a mask. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Howard.
Questions.
I have a question, Howard, about cutouts. Are we going to have a separate list of people who do cutouts on the swarm list this year?
Yeah, the survey, I'm going to ask if people want to be on the list for that.
Okay.
That takes a lot of skill, and I know some people have concerns about liability, et cetera.
Yeah, Howard, I had a question on the swarm list. Could we narrow it down to even maybe a little bit more detail as far as location is concerned? For example, I'm in Brookhaven, so if I put my the town where I'm near, that may give somebody in my area, maybe within 10 miles, a better idea as to where I was.
Yeah, that's I'm going to have a comment area that each of us can put a comment in.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on the survey, there'll be a comment. So you just say in there, please list my location as whatever.
Yeah, Howard, a lot of the people that we see have problems with, where is central Chester
Yeah,
County.
I'm gonna
where
list
is
the
it?
actual townships.
But the one thing that we did in the past for a number of years is I produced a Google Maps so that somebody would just click on the link. I've still got the Google Maps with, it should still be active. You just publish this, they look at the Google Maps, they know where they live, and they can see the beekeepers in the whole area. So
Well,
they
if you-
can just phone the person that's closest.
If you could let me know how to, or help me figure out how to do that, that'd be fine.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I've set everything up, so it's.
Okay.
I think I sent it through, but it seems to have been forgotten over the years.
Yeah, I vaguely remember it. Yeah.
You're an IT guy, Howard. You'll figure it out. It's pretty easy.
So, Howard, let's just, the two of us find some time and I can create a survey with you. If we could just spend simple, if you know what's on the survey, we'll sit down one morning for 10 or 15 minutes and create the survey and send it out to everybody in the near future. That's
Okay.
simple.
Okay.
Great. Excellent. Soon it will be swarm season, so it'll be good to go get some free bees. Daryl. So the board of directors was good at spending money in the past month. So the board of directors also has approved expenditures for $2,000 for the passport program in 2021. And this is a new program which is coming out of our education committee led by Daryl. Do you want to say a word or two about this, Daryl?
Yeah, did you want me to show anything or just introduce it a little bit?
It's all up to you.
I can share my screen and I could show.
Sure. Do I need to stop my share for you to share?
Let's see.
I may.
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, so there's been a lot of cross-pollination going on between Innovation Committee, Education Committee, Board of Directors. I mean, pretty much everyone who is talking to each other is throwing ideas around and brainstorming. So this idea came out of, a bunch of the brainstorming that's been going on behind the scenes. And like George said, the Board of Directors has sponsored this for us. So we put together a kind of a CCBA passport. So the goal of this passport program is to foster engagement. So, beekeeping at its best in normal times can be a pretty introverted hobby. And now with COVID, it's like 100-fold worse. So the hope is that once things normalize a bit, that we can get back out there and start interacting with each other, build our relationships up, and then we want this to act as a guide to sustainable beekeeping. So kind of outline the kind of skills and things you need to do to be a sustainable beekeeper. So again, you buy your bees one time. And most of all, we want it to be fun. How will we do that? By celebrating our achievements. So depending on what we do, if it's an event or a skill you learn, that kind of thing, or a meeting you attend or conference, you'll get points. And we'll have stickers and stamps, like when you're going to Cancun and you get your stamp at the airport. It's that kind of same thing. So you'll have a record of your achievement. There's going to be a spirit of competition. Obviously, if you're collecting points, they should mean something. So those will go towards winning prizes. There'll be different categories. Yeah, so hopefully that will get us out there and competing a little bit and having fun with each other. So this is kind of what it's going to look like. I'll just run through some of this pretty quickly. And I apologize, there is no way for PowerPoint to do both landscape and portrait in the same one unless you use links. So this is like your typical first page on your passport. Put your name in there, your member, ID, so forth, a photo. Maybe we could have a funniest passport photo contest as well. Okay, it's got the club objectives, which are very important to everybody, obviously. And then we get into, the areas where you would put visas and stuff in your passport. So this already has laid out the meetings. So if you attended the March meeting today, you'll get yourself a sticker or stamp in your passport. There's obviously a big element of education here. So if you look at the bottom in the footer, you want to, it's May and you've got your new nuke and you don't know what to do with it. So pull out your phone, scan the QR code, and it will take you to a video of how to introduce your nuke into your colony. We have a seasonal beekeeping calendar. So this is the winter calendar with things that you should be thinking about in each month, just to help guide you along, remind you. Okay, then we've got an area for skills. You collect a skill, you get your stamp or sticker. So you do a mite count, you get your stamp. Make a split, make a nuke, all of these different skills that you need to become a sustainable beekeeper. You collect points for doing that, and those points will hopefully lead you on to competing for prizes. Again, more education here in the footer. If you want to make a split, scan the QR code and it will take you to a video and show you how to make a split. We are soliciting sponsorship, like George said. So that's kind of the last step right now before I get this to the printers. So we were looking at Kimberton Whole Foods and Better Bee, and we should have their answers pretty soon. So a little advertising. This QR code takes you to the monthly discounts at Kimberton Whole Foods. Spring Bee calendar to remind you what you should be doing. Okay, more meetings. So as you collect your meetings, you'll get your stamps and your points for that. Some more education at the bottom, as always. Here's some advertising for Better Bee, what it might look like if they choose to sponsor the passport. But like George said, we don't need sponsorship this year because the board of directors sponsored it, but it would be nice to help defray some of that cost. And then this is blank space for more visas. This is an evolving program. We thought it was important to get it out this year instead of making it perfect and pristine and polished and waiting another year. We thought we would get it out there and make improvements as we go along. So as we think of skills you should learn, we'll make some stamps and you can pop them in these blank areas. Okay, more skills that we think a sustainable beekeeper should have. And then an ever popular question is how to find the queen. So you can watch a video down there and University of Guelph can tell you how to find your queens. Summer beekeeping calendar. Okay, more skills. Swarm control video. I put a freebie in there for some points. Sign your passport. You can get your first sticker or stamp. Then we have a video how to do a formic acid treatment. And now, okay, so there's lots of blank space, just like everyone's normal passport. We're going to be adding events as the year goes on, obviously. Hive crawl, mite-a-thon, who knows what else. Some of the lunch and learns, all of those things we'll have stamps for, and you can add those into your passport as you collect them. Fall beekeeping calendar, more events. I have a half a QR code here. There is a scavenger hunt element included in the passport. So there'll be clues within the passport that if you're the first to figure it out, you will win a really good prize. There will be some secondary prizes. So if you don't win the big one, you can still be a super sleuth and figure out the clues and find yourself some secondary prizes. But that is an element of the passport. Okay, more space for all the wonderful events, like picnic, whatever else we're doing once COVID finally opens up, and more educational videos. And, I think we all agree that sustainable beekeepers need to keep records and collect data. So we're hoping this is kind of your gateway to maintaining records. So we've included 5 small hive records at the back of the passport. And again, sorry to make everyone do this. And this aligns well with what the CCBA, the type of data that the CCBA is collecting for the Queen program and other things. So that's it. So we hope, people are going to get out, have some fun with this, kind of foster a spirit of competition and also camaraderie and win some nice prizes and then really learn what you need to do to become a sustainable beekeeper. And if you already know all that, you can just show off by collecting the most points and winning the best prizes. So that's the idea behind it. And as soon as we get a couple final answers for sponsorship, then we'll get this out to the printers. There are a couple of improvements that I've made based on some of the board of directors suggestions. So this is not the final, but as soon as we get sponsorship answers, then I'll get the final out to the printer and we'll get them out next month to everybody who wants them. And that's it.
Thanks, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl? Don asked, is it a physical passport or an app?
No, it's a physical passport. So you can carry it around with you. You can use it as your Hive record in your pocket, and it's passport size. On Tim's direction, I tried to make sure the fonts were good for all of us whose sight is going downhill as we age. So although it's a small passport size, it should be clearly readable to everyone. Yeah, so it's a physical thing. Keep it in your pocket. Take it everywhere you go.
Thanks, Daryl. So yes, this is going to be somehow a covered member benefit. So anybody who wants to participate in the passport program for this year will be able to participate at no cost to themselves in the passport program this year. So I think the idea is really to, like as Daryl said, to sort of, for those people who want to sort of go on their own journey and track their own skills. It's a way to sort of do that. And it's also a way to sort of, have fun too, which is what we should be having. So Daryl and his education committee have worked very hard on this, and the board of directors was very pleased to sponsor this and make sure that any CCBA member who wanted to participate in this can this year. So kudos to Daryl and the education committee for the work. And it really is, it shows you what I've been pushing committees since I started my presidency last year. And if you have an idea out there and you want to see the CCBA go in a particular direction, work through the committees, and the committees can get this stuff to the board and the board can approve, and then we could spend some money. So I really thank Daryl's for his initiative on this project, and hopefully there'll be a lot of interest when it comes out. My guess is it'll be sometime in April, probably, Daryl, when as soon as possible. We're working on it. We surely don't want to miss an opportunity for someone to sponsor this, but we'll
And it truly has been collaborative. I mean, this really just arose out of kind of casual, conversations back and forth amongst the committees. So it just, good things can come out of just easy breezy conversations, I guess. And George has already started a companion web page as well. So we'll be able to disseminate information there about prizes, leaderboards, that kind of thing.
Thanks. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, I think. I've asked Ray to talk a little bit tonight about our census, annual CCBA census, and a little bit on record keeping.
Thanks, George.
Welcome. Do you want me to drive the slides for you?
Yeah, if you would, please, that'd be great.
Okay.
I'd like to start by thanking all the committee members for reviewing and collaborating on the design. I'll talk about that in a minute. The good news is we've already got about 130 people that have completed the survey, so we've made good progress since the conference. It'll be open until April 8th, so if you haven't had a chance to complete the survey, please do. George has been really good about advertising, and hopefully we'll get at least a majority of the primary members to respond. Next chart, please. So the design is, to shorten it up from what it was last year, we eliminated several questions that were focused on benchmarking for the first time. Some of the questions about apiary locations, what kind of habitat was surrounding apiaries. We skipped that this year to focus in on the sustainable beekeeping metrics that we benchmarked last year. So there are 3 sections again this year: the profile information, pest and disease management, which is a focus of the club this year. So we did expand that somewhat from last year. And again, overwintering practices. So we're in that window now where most of our colonies have been overwintered. I'd like to say that the census design was based on industry standard references. The Be Informed Partnership, as you know, has a national survey that's conducted once a year. It's fairly onerous for people to fill out. It's about an hour's worth of questions to respond to. You have to have very good records to complete it. So this is kind of the short version, but it's aligned question by question with that survey. So we can compare answers against national metrics. This year we included all the disease and pest management associated with the USDA APHIS testing. All of the CCBA apiaries will be tested relative to diseases, so those are all included and referenced. The Honeybee Health Coalition also has a best management practice. I'm going to make a pitch about that when we talk about hive records. And a new application from Penn State University called Beescape. Beescape is a lightweight version of the Be Informed Partnerships National Survey. So again, our questions that we're asking club members to complete are aligned with the same terminology, same set of beekeeping practices. Next chart, George. So the three main objectives are to provide data and metrics to help the club make decisions about this year's activities and programs relative to resources and expenses. The second is to compare last year's practices where we established these benchmarks so that we can compare progress that has been made since last year. This is kind of a work in progress. It will take several years to sustain kind of the key pursuits of the club, but without measuring the practices, it's really hard to see if we're making progress. And the last is to compile a report, and we'll make recommendations to the board of directors. The report will be available. We're targeting May, the May meeting. Hopefully we'll give you an update. Next chart. So George asked me to talk a little bit about beekeeping records. Just a year ago, March of last year, I presented a lot of details on all the different kinds of beekeeping records that are possible. I've just got a few charts tonight as a kind of refresher. But this is a list of typical information, subject matter that are included in hive records and journals, different formats, if you will, but they all contain pretty much the same kind of information. And in addition to the survey information we're collecting, we also have like number 9, the honey production metrics that we take later in the summer. Hopefully we'll get some additional information about pests and diseases as we get into the summer, and certainly mite treatments and strategies around varroa control. Next chart, please, George. So the pitch I'm trying to make here is, you know, what's the reason? Why would you keep hive records? So I referenced some of the typical beekeeping textbooks, and one that I like particularly is called the Beekeepers Handbook. Diana's statement is, records are absolutely necessary for those beekeepers who desire to continually upgrade their stock. If you're not focused on stock management and improving your beekeeping practices, records aren't really required. But I like to think of kind of the animal husbandry part. If you keep records about your vaccinations for your pets, you know, as a hobbyist beekeeper, you should at least do some simple things around stock management for your bees, so you can track the colony performance, how long they're living, things like queen age, where you got your queens from, whether it's local stock or stock outside Pennsylvania. That all makes a difference if you try to improve your beekeeping practices. And without keeping records about what you did last year, it's hard to make comparisons. There was a little bit of chat tonight about comparing this year's beekeeping practice to last year. Well, it's all dependent on climate and weather change. So if you keep records, you can begin to study how your microclimate changes and how your habitat, your foraging resources, the food available to your colonies changes. As Keith said, you have good years and bad years for the black locusts and other major tree nectar flows. So it's a good practice to pay attention to those if you're focused on honey production, as an example. And the last thing is keeping good records does avoid disruptive inspections. Quite often, new beekeepers are encouraged to practice inspections, but at some point in time, the fewer inspections that you make, the less disruptive you are to your colonies, particularly during sensitive periods, like during the nectar flow, as an example. You don't want to interrupt the colony while they're working. Next chart, please. The other thought here is that hive records are really a best practice. And this is a reference from the Honeybee Health Coalition's Best Management Practices for Hive Health. And their statement is beekeepers should maintain a record of their hives' apiary locations and seasons. And then they give a few examples, things that I've already mentioned. If you're not familiar with the Honeybee Health Coalition's best management practices, I would recommend that you read them. It's a good refresher, even if you're an experienced beekeeper. And I have posted those CCBA documents folder, so you can find them there. And the next chart, please. So we talked about this in detail last year. There are many, many choices regarding the kinds of records you might want to keep. And you can get a lot of this material online. The Citizen Science Committee has also put together a template using Google Sheets, so it can be shared broadly, particularly if you have a mentor or you're working with school apiaries, public facing apiaries. It's a good idea to collaboratively have access to hive records, so it's a good platform to do that. And I'd be happy to help anyone use that template or point you towards a type of journal or record that might be more suitable to the type of beekeeping you do, because there really isn't one size fits all. If you have hundreds of colonies, your record keeping practice is going to be a lot different than a typical backyard beekeeper with only 2 or 3 colonies. So I'll leave it there. Any questions?
And Ray's going to have a breakout room on record keeping in eHive tonight. So if anybody wants to ask Ray any more questions about what he recommends or any tips or to do this, that would be join his breakout room tonight, hop on over and say hi to Ray. It's one of those habits that's a good one to get started on early. So if you're a new beekeeper and just getting started, please really consider, getting a little book or getting a passport or doing something even if you start out doing something, even if it's small, it's a good habit to do. The census I see as one of the most important things that as a member that you do each year. I know it's only 3 minutes and it doesn't seem like a lot, but it is important. It's very important to me to be able to say who the CCBA is and whether or not we are really meeting my goal of trying to improve our beekeeping skills and our practices. I don't know that unless people fill out the census. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle is what I explained at some point during the conference. Like, if you're missing 50% of the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle and you put the puzzle together and then you're trying to see what the puzzle shows, you may be okay or you may not. But if you have 70% of the pieces in the puzzle, you're going to have a much better shot at sort of saying, this is what this puzzle looks like. So I know I'm a pain in the whatever sometimes, and I send out lots of emails at 4 o'clock in the morning, but you will see more emails from 4 o'clock in the morning to complete your census. We have a month to do it. I surely would like the majority of our members to fill out the census. It's 3 or 4 minutes. If you struggle with it, let Ray or myself know. And there's a little button on the home page, so you don't have to look very far to push it and to fill it out. So for those of you who have not filled out the census yet and you want to take a moment tonight at some point before you sign off the meeting, go to the home page and fill it out. Again, we are really fortunate to have Ray and his citizen science committee. Really elevates it just elevates what we're doing in our club and the level of professionalism and the level of just good beekeeping that we're doing. So thanks to the Citizen Science Committee, and fill out your census or I'll come mailing you. Anyway, Ed, is Ed out there? Ed Sharp. Ed.
Ed.
Hey, Ed.
Testing.
Ed. If you need something built, call Ed. No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, what? Different Ed.
Different Ed. So Ed is our new committee lead this year. Him and Allie is the co-lead. So they want to talk a little bit about, right? You're going to talk a little bit about nukes and the mating yard. How about that?
All right. Yeah, we can do that. Or I know I can. Well, nuke pickup for the ones that were purchased on the storefront is going to be this weekend, Saturday. George has the slide up there. So in the morning, we're going to be at George's place from 9 to 11. If you pre-ordered, I think we have some extra left.
We have 23 deep nuke kits still available as of this morning. So if you want some deep, if you want to purchase deep nuke kits, please do.
Yeah, and so like I say, if you pre-purchase, swing on down. So the southern part of Chester County will be at George's place. They're at 9 to 11. At around noon, we're going to slide up to the apiary, the club apiary there at 651 Brandywine Drive for 2 hours. For anybody in the Downingtown, Westchester, surrounding areas, to save your travels. And again, if you pre-purchase one, swing on down, and we'll check you off the list and hand you your boxes. And then we're going to finish off today at my place up here in Pottstown, 1482 Harvey Lane, from 3 to 5 or whenever. So again, if whichever location is closer to you, we ask that you come pick them up. If you can't pick them up, please contact myself to make arrangements for a time when you can. We don't want to hang on to them for too long, but obviously you did pay for them, so they are yours. So that's what we got for as far as the actual purchase nukes we got from Ike. It's a great product. I'm personally buying a few myself. I usually build mine out of plywood, but you know, these are for the same price. I can buy something that looks a little more real. Yeah, in fact, George has a slide. That's what you would be purchasing. Now, the medium nukes are sold out. I don't know if Justin still has the offer on the table, but on the Facebook site, he did offer that he bought the last 3 mediums that he's possibly willing to part with. Don't want to put him on the spot. That was the last comment he had there. But as far as the deeps go, there are 23 left on the website that are available for purchase. So, you know, let's try to jump on out there and get them sold. I don't want to hang on to them very much longer either.
You want to talk about the mating yard a little?
Sure, why not? The mating yard, George and I met down there last weekend. The mating yard, you know, it's a gifted site to us. So what that means, it's donated to our use. You know, we're not renting it, we're not paying for it. So we are going to limit the amount of actual nukes that are going to be allowed to come down there. We don't want to create this cavalcade of bees down there to where, you know, they start filming movies and stuff down there about, you know, bee swarms and what have you. So we do want to keep the amount of nukes to 30. And what we're going to do on the CCBA storefront, we're going to offer tickets. What I mean by ticket, it's free, but what it does, it reserves your spot. We're asking that 6 weeks is the maximum amount of time for you to keep your nukes down there. That should be plenty of time, even if you're doing a walk away split. Make your split, drive it down, set it down. We're going to have some pallets laid out. The pallets, you know, they're going to be ground level pallets. They're solid top pallets, so you know, the weeds are most likely not going to be growing up into your hives. I don't want to say they're not, because I'm not going to go down there weed eat or anything like that. But so yeah, there will be ground level pallets. Pallets will be. I'm going to mark the pallets, so when you get down there and you drop your hive off, there'll be a registration box. So it's anonymous. It's anonymous to everyone else. You can set your hive on the pallet, and there'll be a little paper with a drop box. Put your name, phone number, contact information, and where your nuke is, and then we will keep track of it. So this way, fellow members don't know who's on spot 13, but we will. So at the end of your 6 weeks, if you maybe forgot about it, or we'll be able to give you a little nudge to come pick up your nuke. So, and then every 2 weeks, I believe, yeah, just like George has 10 spots every 2 weeks. And then as you pick up your nukes, we'll be able to, you know, if all 30 spots are out for the first 3 weeks, as you pick up your nukes, we'll be able to put that spot back on the website, on the storefront. So if there's 30 spots filled, you know, there'll be no tickets available. But as people remove their nukes, the storefront will repost the tickets for a spot at the nuke yard. I think that's about it. Now we are going to be working with the Queen committee. So if you're buying a either mated queen or I don't know, you're selling queen cells, George?
Yeah, this will be for queen cells mainly, right? For people
Okay.
who purchase queen cells.
Sure. Well, yeah, obviously a mated queen, you don't need to leave your nuke down there to get mated again.
You could.
Yeah. So yeah, if you purchase a queen cell from the Queen committee and you have a ticket during the pickup day, if you bring your nuke down, part of the experienced staff down there will help you install your queen if you're not sure how, or the best practice. So we will be able to assist in placing your queen cell into your nuke box, and then then we'll place it on the pallet for the queen to go out and get mated. That's kind of what I got for the mating yard. I know some people, in the past, it's been an open mating yard. And with that open mating yard, obviously disease control becomes an issue. If we have an outbreak, we need to be able to, just like COVID, we got to do contact tracing. We got to let everybody know, hey, there was an outbreak of European foul brood, or I'm not even going to mention AFB because we're just gonna, that's not going to happen. But if there's something that needs to be reported to people who have their hives down there, we want to be able to let you know that, hey, something went bad.
So Ed, can I just ask you quick? You're going to inspect all the hives that are in the mating yard?
That is not true.
Oh, okay.
We're going to let it roll. Now we do voluntarily ask that, if we do see a problem, if it's robbing or something like that, we'll be able to pop the lid and just to make sure nothing went awry. But as far as the actual, can we validate that you have a clean hive or anything like that, we don't want to take liability or responsibility for that. We do ask that if you do bring something down and there are people here if there are people like during the queen cell pickup, let us look through it. If you're not sure, ask somebody that's experienced before you bring it down to come check it out. It's just a safe bee practice. We did entertain the idea of inspecting beforehand, but again, there become a liability issue because, what if we didn't pick it up and it's still, and the mating yard still gets an infection throughout the different hives. None of us want to take liability for that for sure. So we do ask, that if something does go awry, that one of the members will be able to come check it out. But yeah, as far as officially looking through it, none of us here except for Jeff is actually authorized to make the call. You have something bad or not. So,
Ed, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Walt.
How many nukes can you put per spot?
Okay, what we're the pallets that we're going to be using, it's 2 nukes per pallet. And what I'm going to do is once we lay the pallets out, I'll go down there, put a line between them, put numbers on the pallets. So, if I'm not mistaken, George, we're limiting to 5 spots per customer.
Yeah, I don't know if we've finalized that yet. Honestly.
Okay.
So one ticket is 1 box. So it could be a nuke box, it could be a divided nuke box, it could be a 4-frame queen castle, but it's 1 box. So, if you're doing queen castles, 4-way queen castles, and you buy 5 tickets, or not, you get 5 tickets and you have you can make 20 queens there. If you're doing a single nuke box and you have 5 tickets, and it's 5 nuke boxes. So it's based on, does that make sense, Walt?
Yeah, so I just went on to go buy a ticket and I can only get 1 ticket.
For now, I have to change that.
Okay.
Right now you can go back on and buy another ticket and another ticket and another ticket, but we'll need to, I haven't, that went up a little faster than my brain caught on to, trying to figure out what would be the maximum number of tickets per any slot, Yeah,
we're not trying to be stingy with the spots or anything like that. The mating yard down there, it is spacious, but again, we don't want it to become a calamity either. And honestly, I walked it last Saturday, and what we do want to do a little bit better practice of, and this is an internal gig. Well, we're all internal, so we're all members. At the end of the season, we do want to clean up out there. There was some nasty shit left out there from last year that, I wasn't too keen on. So, at the end of the season, when the meeting season's over, the new committee will get together and, we'll walk the premises and make it clean. Again, we don't want to, we're being privileged by having this spot without having to pay for it. And we don't want to make anybody upset about it.
And I don't know how Ed or how we came up with 30 total mating boxes out there. I don't know if that's the right number. I don't know if that's too little or too many. So we surely welcome, if people have expert opinion on those issues, right? Because the number of tickets on the storefront can be modified if for any reason we think that we need to have fewer or more mating spots at the apiary.
Yeah, we will be sharing the apiary with the Queen Committee. So, although if you go down there and, you see 55 spots, only 30 of them are for the members as of right now. And again, just like George said, we kind of spitballed it, spacing between hives, pallets, blah, blah, blah. So we didn't want to overcrowd it, but if we go down there and it looks kind of sparse, sure, we can put some more tickets up on the website. And then ultimately, whenever you go to the website, if there's a ticket there, you're more than welcome to sign up for it.
And this is, so, it is a little bit of change of practice for those members who have been members for a while, where we've had more of a, sort of just drop off your nuke and pick it up. So, we hope that everybody sort of, follows along. So we're able to, one, track the usage of the yard, and two, if there is any need for contact tracing, we'd be able to do it. So thanks to Ed and the new committee for working out the details of the mating yard this year. So it should be exciting, honestly, of really having a real, effective mating yard. So thanks, Ed.
Yeah. And just one last thing here. One of the things, obviously record keeping was important before. What we also want, and again, this is something I really haven't discussed with George, but one thing I do want to do is keep track. If you do have a successful mating or a non-successful mating, and what that will do, that will be able to, we can grade our mating yard. So, at the end of the season, if we tried mating 500 queens and 200 come back mated, maybe we need to do something different. But I think in the past, historically, it's been a great mating yard. And, it would be nice to actually have records to show that it is a great mating yard.
Hi, Ed, please touch base with me. I supply all the drones for the mating yard.
Okay.
And I set it up originally. So please just have a chat with me.
I will now. Okay, excellent. I will.
Great. Anything else for Ed? Okay, we're going to move on to Paul's Cowboy Beaky. What is he doing this month? I know we're running a little behind, not for Paul, but for me, I'm running a little bit behind. So our meeting may run a few minutes past 9 o'clock when we do the breakout room. So I hope that's okay with people. If you have to drop off, you can drop off at 9 o'clock, but no rush, Paul. We're good. And I do have your other slide. So let me know when you want your growing degree day slide.
Okay, I'll probably share my screen because I want to.
Okay, that works. Do you want me to stop my share then?
No, that's all right for right now.
Okay.
So I hope no one's doing any cowboy beekeeping this month because it is just too darn cold. So this year is not like last year at all. So last year I found eggs, larvae, and sealed brood on January 24th. So sealed brood is usually after 10 days of laying. So that means they were laying at least as early as January 14th. I checked my longwood hives on February 25th, and found the first eggs. So January 11th to February 25th. I found eggs and larvae in my own hives here in Downingtown on March 3rd. And there was sealed brood, which meant that, might have been February 21st is when they were laying here in Downingtown. So why this big disparity in when queens lay? So the answer I got from Ray Walker from the Citizen Science Committee when he sent around some information to the members of the Citizen Science Committee. And it was from the National Phenology Institute, and it had to do with growing degree days. So I'm going to share my screen now, George.
Okay.
So growing degree days all has to do with nectar production. So nectar production only happens when it's warm enough. And so when it's warm enough, the trees will produce sufficient vegetative growth to develop those nectaries. So warmth is often measured by growing degree days. So that's simply the number of degrees that the average daily temperature exceeds the point when vegetation does not grow. So starting on January 1st, growing degree days are accumulated by the people that keep track of this stuff. So this results in accumulated growing degree days that can then be charted and monitored throughout the growing season. So tree nectaries develop upon this accumulated growing degrees days. And we know that around here, wild olive is an important bee food. It's also called autumn olive or Russian olive. So that blooms before the black locust or the tulip tree. So they're all triggered by the different level of environmental warmth. So beekeepers can assess and predict how soon the nectar flow will happen in their region by comparing these accumulated degree days over the course of the season. So the National Phenology Network provides this handy little charting tool, which we're going to try to get to. And we're not going to get to it so good. Well, this is what you're going to see. So this is dependent on, I can go back one probably to, all right, this is what you see. National Phenology Network visualization. You say, how fast is it warming up this year where I live? So here is where you put in your zip.
Paul, you're not sharing that screen.
Not, okay. Let's see. How's that?
Perfect.
All right. So here's the National Phenology Network site. And I put this network site in the newsletter on my section so everybody can find it. So you simply put in your zip code. And I had, let's say, I had 19335. And then click on see the visualization. All right, so you're provided with 3 lines. One is, the black line is the 30-year average growing degree days. The blue line is 2021, and the yellow line is 2020. So you can see how in 2020, this ramped up really fast back in January, but this year, it didn't start moving till almost March. So when did I see my eggs last year? It was around the 12th of January. So it was around the 12th of January I first saw eggs in my hive last year. So that, if you look at the 2020 in yellow, that's about 85 growing degree days. So we follow down to this year, we hit about, where am I here? So
There you go.
88 growing degree days around the end of January. So that's about when I saw the eggs in my hives here in Downingtown. So that's like 5 weeks different. So what can beekeepers take home from this? If you plot this out every year, just access this site every year, you can then determine when eggs should be present in your hives. So I've looked up over the years when eggs were present in my hive, and they ranged from as early as January 14th to late as like February 26th. So I would say the average time is somewhere in the middle. If we look at the average time and look at about 85-degree days. That's about end of January,
8th February.
early February. The black line, if you look at the black line. If you look at 85, where am I going? About here. Yeah, about the end of January, early February. That's on average. But you can see the big difference between the yellow line and the blue line. That is huge. So I'm predicting that everything's going to be about 5 weeks later this year than it was last year. Of course, it's accumulated growing degree days. So once we get some significant warm weather, then this blue line is going to shoot up. So I thought this was pretty handy. You can play around with it. You can put in your own zip code and see how that compares. And it'd be nice to see later on how the trees perform, because around here it's going to be really the autumn olive, which will be the first real crop, followed by the bush honeysuckle, and then later on by the black locust. So I thought it was a nice tool. And what I'm going to try to do now is try to correlate accumulated degree days with swarming. That would be very useful too. So I'll keep track of the accumulated growing degree days for the swarm season this year. And you can do that as well. So a great product from the National Phenology Network.
Thanks, Paul.
And then what else to do this month? Don't feed the bees liquid food unless it's over 50, and that's probably not going to happen for a while. You can slip them some fondant, or you can slip them some pollen patties. You can put dry ultra bee powder in a sheltered place in shallow saucers, and they will pick it up, but they'll quit it cold turkey as soon as the maples start blooming and putting out pollen. So again, weather permitting. Sometimes you can swap the upper deeps to a lower deep position, but I wouldn't recommend it in March. It's probably going to be April before you do the deep switching. So you don't want to chill the new brood. So keep a sticky board in place underneath the hive if you have a bottom board, and keep the tar paper on and keep the insulation on. We're still going to get a couple more days where the mornings will be freezing around here. So not much to do right now with cowboy beekeeping. Any questions?
I have one, Paul.
Yeah.
Does the queen genetics vary the laying start time?
That would be an interesting thing to follow up on, but I don't think so. My gut feeling is that it's all dependent on nectar and pollen. And if you don't have nectar and pollen, she's not going to be producing eggs.
Okay.
The nurse bees will scavenge those eggs because they're going to say, "What are you thinking? There's nothing to eat." So that's my impression. You have to have nectar and pollen. If they have sufficient stores in the hive, then sure, they can start rearing on the basis of honey, but pollen is going to be the important thing for brood rearing, and there's probably not too many pollen stores in a overwintered hive. They need that fresh stuff. So you can certainly assist the bees with a pollen patty, but they're waiting for the real thing. That's my impression. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. I just putting up here one of our hives at the Learning Center that we have Broodminder technology on, looking at hive weight on the left, and you can sort of see that the hive weight this is a 2-week window. So you could see it has been dropping. You could see right around March 12th or so, the rate of weight loss definitely accelerated in that hive. And it definitely seems to correlate when the temperature when the temperature between the lower hive body and the upper hive body got into the brood zone. So clearly, as Paul said, they've been laying eggs probably since February in most of the hives, but the amount of eggs or the amount of brood that in the hive just recently required them to sort of, at least where that temperature sensor is, to get it up to that brood zone. And this happened in all 4 of the hives at the same day, at the same time. So it was fascinating how on March 9th, all the hives basically did this. So every single hive in the apiary did the same thing, which I thought was cool. You know, they all have the temp sensors are in the same places on all the hives, and they all jumped. Now, some of them jumped in the lower box and some of them jumped in the upper box. So this hive, you can see that is more clustered in the lower box still, but some of the hives, this brood temperature is in the upper box. So I think it's if you're into data, into keeping data and tracking data, this is all pretty cool stuff. What I find amazing is they all jumped the same day, and it was on, you can see it was on the warmest day last week, and you can see the temperatures have fallen off for sure, but now the brood temperature in the lower box is maintained over 9 degrees since then. So clearly the amount of brood, and we all know that for those of us who've done a quick inspection in the last week, that the amount of brood is definitely starting to pick up, which you would expect. But we had our first swarms in this area in the end of March last year. So basically 2 weeks away, the hives were swarming last year. So we aren't going to see that this year. So really interesting stuff. Again, if you go onto the website and look at the Learning Center and look at eHives, you can have access to all this data. Anyway, we talk a little bit about stimulative feeding. Do I need to feed, pollen? Do I need to feed fondant? Do I need to feed 1-to-1? I think, are my bees' pollen or honey stores low? For surely, we talked about lifting hives. If you lift hives and your hives have very little weight on them right now, it's probably a good idea to put some fondant or to put some honey frames in there. Am I trying to push brood for any reason? Am I trying to get my hive numbers up because I want to do early splits? Am I thinking about doing queen rearing? Why exactly do I want to push my population faster sooner before you start feeding? And if there's not a good answer, you probably don't need to feed. And you want to ask yourself, do I want my bees to swarm early? Because that's one of the risks of stimulative feeding, is that they're going to be advanced and they may swarm, which may be an issue if your hives are swarming sooner than the rest of the environment is sort of set up to mate those queens. Can I feed 1-to-1 right now? Some people do small stimulative feedings, even when it's a little bit cold. I would say small mason jars right over the cluster, Ziploc bags with slits in them over the clusters, small amounts frequently. Frank talked a little bit about electrolytes in some of his early feeds. I've never done this, but it was mentioned earlier. And large volumes of feeding, and top hive feeders or frame feeders, probably not the best idea right now, because the syrup's going to cool too quickly, and you probably putting the hives at risk for diarrhea or other problems if their syrup is cool. Paul talked a little bit about pollen. How can I feed pollen? You can use pollen patties right over the cluster. The hive beetles will be happy about that. You can put a little dried powder sprinkled at the hive entrance, or dry powder on the top of the frames, or you can have an external feeder about 50 to 100 feet away from the hive as a PVC tube that you hang from a tree. Again, the question is, do my hives really need it, and do I really want to push brood? There is a downside. Everyone thinks, well, I'm gonna help my bees. I'm gonna get my bees a little bit of a boost. Some people say it's not necessary, so you're throwing money away. Every time, if you're going to feed inside the hive, you're opening the hive, which results in heat loss, and it takes about 48 hours for the bees to re-equilibrate the thermal regulation in that hive. So there's an energy expense there. Again, we talked about increased risk of swarming. We've all seen small hive beetles. I predict we're going to be talking a lot about small hive beetles this year. There's definitely more of them early on in the hives than they were in previous years. And then the contamination of early spring honey, if you're really trying to sell some of that light honey or harvest some of that light honey, do you really want your one-to-one mixed in with it? Probably not. I have to admit, I do feed my hives that I use for queen rearing, just because I'm trying to build the nurse bee population up. But even with that, we've pushed back our grafting cycle by 2 weeks already. So we've already pushed our grafting cycles back 2 weeks this year, just looking at the growing degree days and what the hives look like right now. So, it gives me an extra 2 weeks for my hives to get ready to start to build cells. Anyway, just a reminder, Bee Chat every Friday. The link's there. Go to the event calendar, see the links.